What's up, curious youngsters? Every day, without realizing it, we consume hundreds of products. While some have obvious origins, others have a curious creation process. And although many people don't stop to think about the complex process, behind the rice or beer they consume, inquisitive individuals like Mr. Curiosity seek answers to all questions. For this and much more, these are 7 things you consume daily and didn't know how they are made. 1. Rice. This food originated in Asia thousands of years ago and is now enjoyed globally. It used to be obtained through a manual process where workers planted and harvested the plants by hand. Today, large technologies are used, from simple harvesting machines to incredible small planes that plant through a rain of seeds. After 150 days of sowing, the plants will be harvested and the grains separated. The rice grains are transported to the factory and placed in large containers. The conveyor belt will then transport them to warehouses for drying using a ventilation system. Once dry, a vacuum machine takes samples for testing and analysis to verify the rice grains are in good condition and free of insects. Otherwise, the load would need to be discarded. The grains then pass through a machine that removes their shell, leaving the interior that will complete our dish. Another curious machine is going to take care of filing the grains and removing the bran layer so that it changes from a light brown color to a white color. Now the grains will be polished until they are white and shiny, ready for packaging, as if they were diamonds. 2. Pasta. Despite the common belief that pasta originated in Italy, it was actually introduced by Marco Polo after one of his trips to China in 1271. Yeah, the Chinese invented everything. To start the process, we'll need some semolina and water, which, in case you didn't know, semolina is the coarsest wheat flour. Once the flour arrives at the factory, it will be mixed with water at high speed to homogenize it into a perfect dough. After a few minutes, it's ready, and now it will go through some brass molds, which will give us a huge amount and variety of noodles. The dough is pressed into the molds, and a very sharp blade takes care of cutting it to form our pasta. But it's not ready yet. Depending on its type, this soft dough will either be dried in special rooms or through ovens. After a few hours, the pasta is dry and ready for packaging. Thanks, China Trez. Beer in barrel, in bottle, or in can, people consume millions of liters of beer every year. This historic drink is over 500 years old, and its production hasn't changed significantly. The beer has a very basic recipe of only 4 ingredients: water, barley, hops, and yeast. The first step at the factory is receiving kilos of barley and other grains used to make the beer smoother or stronger. These grains are going to be ground so that they start to release all their starch, which is a very important compound for this drink, as it is going to be responsible for producing the sugar, which will then turn into alcohol. When our cereals are ready, just like a tea, boiling water is going to be added to them so they start to release all their flavor. In a few minutes, this barley will be filtered to remove the solids and keep only the liquid. Although the used cereal isn't suitable for making more beer, it's often utilized to produce biogas energy or as farm animal feed. But anyway, let's go back to the factory. Now, hops, one of the main ingredients, will be added. This plant gives beer its characteristic bitter taste. After this, the brewing liquid is boiled again to allow the hops to complete their work. It is allowed to cool and is then ready to be transferred to the fermentation tanks. In these enormous tanks, it will encounter yeast. These microscopic fungi feed on the beer's sugar, releasing carbon dioxide and alcohol. In this way, the beer is left to rest for a few days so that the yeast continues to have its effect and maximizes the alcohol. Finally, when ready, it will proceed to bottling, where the barrel, bottle, or can will be injected with carbon dioxide, and then it will be filled to the brim with the highest quality beer. 4. Gummies. We know that one of the most delicious and addictive things we know are candies. What if we also make this soft and stretchable, like gummies? We can go completely crazy eating thousands of these. But remember Charlie's father, candies are trash. Let's continue to see how the manufacturing process of these addictive sweets occurs. We should head to Germany, specifically to the city of Bonn, where the largest gummy factory in the world is located. The first step to produce our sweets is the manufacturing of the molds. Gummies often come in the shape of bears, worms, and other animals or objects, which is one of their defining characteristics. These molds are not made of metal, but are printed on cornflour sheets, ready to be filled with a gelatinous mass. In a large mixer, corn syrup, gelatin, sugar, and dyes are going to be combined. And after cooking for a few minutes, a homogeneous mass is obtained. And while it is still hot, a machine takes care of pouring the gelatin over the molds that had been made earlier. Then, the mold plates go to a refrigerated room where after 12 to 15 hours they will be rescued. Once the candies are cold and solidified, the molds are struck, and all the gummies fall into a container, while the cornmeal plates that have been used as molds will be pulverized and will be used again for new molds. The gummies then pass through large rotating cylinders where they are coated with vegetable oil, giving them their characteristic shine, and then they are ready to be packed. 5 oil. In most kitchens around the world, we find a bottle of oil, which will not only allow us to cook the food, but also those slightly finer oils can be used to season different dishes. This yellow gold has been used by people for hundreds of years. Although there are different types of oils, they generally follow the same process, making it seem less complex. First, we need to know that there are 2 types of oil. Those of animal origin, which were mostly used in antiquity through the fat of different marine animals. Then there are vegetable oils, made from corn, rice, palm, sunflower seeds, and various other sources. Depending on the quality and type of oil to be produced, a certain method will be used. Since while the most popular oils are usually extracted with hot pressing, those more premium are produced with a cold press. And this is what we are going to focus on today. Once the factory receives its grains, they will pass through a huge and heavy press that will press the seeds to the maximum to obtain their oil. This process produces a large amount of waste that is not thrown away, but is often sold later to make animal feed. Once the oil is extracted, it is pumped through a filtration system, where cloth filters are usually used as they allow the passage of oil but not of seed residues or small sediments. To obtain higher quality oil with a clearer color, this filtration is repeated multiple times. With this type of pressing, less final product is obtained, but it has a clearer color and higher nutritional values. 6 tickets. For thousands of years, people have been using different objects to carry out exchanges. Bartering was once used, followed by salt as a currency. Coins appeared, followed by our beloved banknotes before the digital age. But how are they made? The problem with regular paper is that it tears very easily. So, to produce banknotes, we don't use paper, but fabric instead. A fabric made from cotton. Some countries, like the United States, add linen to the mix for increased durability. Once we have our cotton and linen prepared in long sheets, the ingredients are blended in a large blender to create a homogeneous pulp. Then, this paste goes through a roller system to end up becoming a huge roll of kilometers and kilometers of fabric. The problem is that so far we only have a bit of fabric. So the next step is to send everything to the mint so that the printing process that will give value to our bills can begin. To deter counterfeiting, banknotes have several security features. One of the most well-known being the images visible when held up to the light. And did you know that to achieve this, literally the figure is made by putting a greater amount of cotton fibers in a certain shape? After this, a security thread is added and they are ready for printing. These metal rollers, having the bill's design, will be inked and pressed against the fabric to imprint the full drawing. Now, these are left to dry for a few days and then they are going to be cut, grouped, and packaged to end up in some bank or automated teller machine. I need money? 7. Cheddar cheese. If there's any cheese that has won the public's love for the perfect combination with burgers, it's cheddar cheese. This unique cheese offers an ideal flavor and texture that, when melted over the meat, will make us salivate. But before starting with such a satisfying process, did you know that this cheese is named after the place where it was created? Cheddar cheese was first made in Cheddar Village, Somerset, England. First thing we need to make a delicious cheese are cows. Lots of cows. Once the cows are milked, the milk is stored and transported by a refrigerated truck to the factory. The milk is heated and then receives a portion of rennet, which will start the milk solidification process. Then this milk is filtered and the liquid is separated from the fatty matter, and this fat is going to be responsible for turning into cheese. Using a large mixer, the forming milk clumps are mixed and cut into small pieces. And is this the moment when the characteristic color of cheddar is going to be applied? Yes, after a few months of maturing, it can turn dark yellow. But you can also add natural colorants like annatto seeds. Are they going to give it that orange tone? After being filtered, our small pieces of cheese continue to mix until they are ready to be crushed and receive a good amount of salt, which is not only going to give the cheddar its intense flavor, but also it's going to take care of cutting off the chemical processes that continue to occur in the milk. After this, the cheese is placed in molds and submerged in a press, which is going to give it that perfect rectangular shape to rest for a few months before it's ready. Before leaving, let me greet some subscribers. First of all, a huge greeting to Oliver Bautista, then another small greeting to Daniel Diaz Soto. I also send a big greeting to Jeff D. Caravaglio and another to Jose Gabriel Flores. A big greeting to Jacob Mendoza and a little greeting to Johnny Silva. Lastly, I send a big greeting to Matias Jacobs and a little greeting to Jovita Hernandez. And the last greeting I'm going to take to the crack of Christian Alarco. Please like, comment, and share this video and channel with your friends. Don't forget. So now, more kisses from Mr. Curiosity. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell so you don't miss any new video. I am Mr. Curiosity.